She was invisible to him for 3 years, just another face cleaning his luxury hotel floors while he built his empire. But when Lily Hart walked into that glittering gala in a borrowed dress, everything changed in a single, electric moment of eye contact. What Marcus Cole didn't know was that the woman he'd been ignoring held the power to either save his crumbling heart or destroy everything he'd worked for. Because when a billionaire falls for the Maid, society has rules, and some people will do anything to make sure those rules aren't broken. One desperate father, one impossible choice, and one night that would force them both to decide, is love worth losing everything? The answer will shock you, break your heart, and restore your faith in second chances all at once. If you're ready for a love story that proves fairy tales can happen to anyone, anywhere, hit subscribe and tell me what city you're watching from, because this story will make you believe in magic again. Lily Hart pushed her cart down the polished hallway of the executive floor, the wheels making soft clicking sounds against the marble. The afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the elegant carpet. She moved quietly, like she always did, checking her list twice before entering each suite. Room 1201, fresh towels, replace the coffee pods, check the minibar. She'd been working this floor for 8 months now, long enough to know which guests left generous tips and which ones barely acknowledged her existence, long enough to recognize the sound of different footsteps, the sharp click of designer heels, the confident stride of expensive leather shoes, the hurried shuffle of people trying to close million-dollar deals. The executive floor was a different world from the rest of the hotel. Down on the lower floors, families laughed in the hallways and children pressed their faces against windows overlooking the city. Up here, everything was hushed and serious. Business deals worth more money than she'd ever seen in her lifetime happened behind closed doors while she cleaned around them. She knocked gently on 1201 and waited. No answer. Good. Easier to work when the guests weren't watching her every move, making sure she didn't touch anything valuable or overstay her welcome. The suite was beautiful. All rich woods and cream-colored furniture that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. Lily folded the used towels with practiced hands and replaced them with fresh ones from her cart. She straightened the magazines on the glass coffee table and emptied the trash. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. "Girl, these people on the front desk are driving me crazy. Ready to catch the 6:15 bus?" Lily smiled as she typed back. "Almost done up here. Meet you at the staff exit." Tessa Morales had been her best friend since her first week at the Cole Hamilton Hotel 3 years ago. Where Lily was quiet, Tessa was loud. Where Lily kept her head down, Tessa spoke her mind. They balanced each other out perfectly. Lily had started in housekeeping on the 3rd floor, cleaning standard rooms for business travelers and tourists. The work was hard but straightforward. Change the sheets, scrub the bathrooms, vacuum the carpets, move on to the next room. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work that paid her bills. The promotion to the executive floor had come as a surprise. David Chen, the operations manager, had called her into his office one morning and offered her the position. Better pay, fewer rooms to clean, more interaction with VIP guests. It should have felt like a step up. Instead, it often felt like she was playing a game where nobody had told her the rules. The executive floor had different expectations, different rhythms. Guests who expected perfection and rarely said thank you. Managers who watched her work with critical eyes, looking for any reason to send her back downstairs. 3 years at the hotel, and Lily still felt like an outsider looking in. Lily finished the suite and moved to the next one. The hallway stayed empty except for the soft murmur of voices from behind closed doors. Business deals, important conversations, the kind of life she only saw from the outside. As she reached for her master key, footsteps echoed down the hall, expensive shoes on marble. She glanced up to see Marcus Cole walking toward his office, phone pressed to his ear. "No, that won't work," he was saying. "The investors want to see numbers, not promises. We need to be better than better." Marcus Cole, co-owner of the hotel chain, self-made millionaire, the kind of man who wore suits that fit perfectly and never seemed to have a hair out of place. He was also the kind of man who looked right through her like she was part of the furniture. Marcus had built his empire from nothing. Lily had heard the story from other staff members, how he'd worked construction jobs to pay for college, how he'd saved every penny to buy his first small motel, how he'd turned that single property into a chain of luxury hotels. It was the kind of success story that made headlines and inspired business school case studies. But success had a price. Marcus Cole was always working, always thinking 3 steps ahead, always focused on the next deal. He moved through the hotel like a man who owned the world, which, in many ways, he did. Lily had been cleaning these halls for months, and she could count on one hand the number of times he'd actually looked at her. Really looked, not just the polite nod he gave to any piece of hotel equipment that happened to be in his path. Lily stepped aside to let him pass. He gave her a quick nod, the same polite nod he'd give to a lamp or a painting, and kept walking. "Staff should be seen, not involved," she heard him say into the phone as he opened his office door, "especially with these clients." The words hit her like cold water. Lily's hands tightened on her cart handle. She knew he wasn't talking about her specifically, but it still hurt. 3 years of careful work, 3 years of making sure every room was perfect, and to him, she was just part of the scenery. She finished her shift in silence, mind racing. By the time she reached the staff exit, Tessa was already waiting with her purse slung over her shoulder. "You look like someone stole your lunch," Tessa said, falling into step beside her as they walked to the bus stop. "Just tired." "Uh-huh." Tessa knew her too well. "What happened?" Lily sighed. "Nothing, everything. I don't know." The bus was crowded with people heading home from their jobs, office workers in wrinkled shirts, retail employees still wearing name tags, people like her, the ones who kept the city running while others made the big decisions. "Mr. Cole said something today," Lily said quietly, "about staff being seen but not involved." "That man," Tessa shook her head. "He's so busy being important he doesn't see real people." "Maybe that's for the best." "No, it's not." Tessa's voice was firm. "You work twice as hard as half the people in that place. You deserve to be seen." Lily's stop came first. She squeezed Tessa's hand before getting off. "See you tomorrow." The pharmacy was busy, but Lily waited in line patiently. Tom's blood pressure medication wasn't cheap, but it was necessary. Her father had worked 40 years as a mechanic before his heart started giving him trouble. Now he lived on a small pension and whatever help she could give. She'd been helping with his medical expenses for 2 years now, ever since the first heart episode that had landed him in the emergency room. The doctor said he was stable as long as he took his medication and avoided stress. Easy enough to say, harder to do when you were living paycheck to paycheck. "Lily Hart," she said when her turn came. The pharmacist handed over the white paper bag. "That'll be $87. Lily handed over her debit card and tried not to think about how thin her bank account was getting. Rent was due next week. The electric bill was past due. But Tom needed his medicine. Walking home to her tiny apartment, Lily did the math in her head like she did every month. After rent, utilities, groceries, and Tom's medication, she had maybe $50 left over for everything else. New clothes when her old ones wore out, emergency repairs, any hope of saving money for the future. It wasn't much of a life, but it was her life, and she was grateful for it. Grateful for her job, her health, her father's love. Grateful for friends like Tessa who made her laugh even on the hardest days. But that was just dreaming. Real life was cleaning rooms and taking buses and stretching every dollar until it screamed. Her apartment was small but clean. 1 bedroom, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, and a living room that doubled as her dining area. She heated up leftover pasta and called Tom while she ate. "How was work, sweetheart?" His voice was warm but tired. "Good. Busy. How are you feeling?" "Can't complain. Watched some TV. Mrs. Patterson brought me soup." Tom's neighbor was a saint, always checking on him when Lily couldn't be there. "Did you take your medicine?" "Yes, Mother." Tom chuckled. "Stop worrying about your old dad." But Lily couldn't stop worrying. Tom was all the family she had left since Mom died 5 years ago, and he was getting older, more fragile. What if something happened to him? What if she couldn't take care of him anymore? "I love you, Dad." "Love you too, Lily girl. Get some rest." After she hung up, Lily sat in the silence of her apartment. Marcus Cole's words echoed in her head. Staff should be seen, not involved. Well, she was definitely seen. seen cleaning toilets and changing sheets and picking up after people who made more money in a day than she made in a year. But maybe that was enough. Maybe wanting more was just setting herself up for disappointment. She went to bed early, setting her alarm for 6:30. Tomorrow would be another day of being invisible on the executive floor. Marcus Cole stood at his office window, watching the city lights twinkle below. The investor call had gone well, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing from his life. At 32, he had everything he'd dreamed of as a kid growing up in a cramped apartment with his mother. Success, respect, financial security. The Cole Hamilton hotel chain was his baby, built from scratch with 14-hour days and more coffee than any human should consume. But success was a lonely companion. The higher he climbed, the fewer people he could trust. Everyone wanted something from him. Investors wanted returns. Employees wanted promotions. Women wanted the lifestyle his money could provide. Sometimes he missed the simplicity of his construction days. Clock in, do honest work, clock out. People said what they meant and meant what they said. No hidden agendas or complicated games. His phone rang. Mom. Marcus, darling, how was your day? Productive. He loosened his tie and sat behind his desk. The Henderson deal looks promising. That's wonderful. Are you eating enough? You work too hard. Evelyn Cole had spent the first part of her life struggling to make ends meet. She'd worked 3 jobs to put herself through college, cleaning offices at night, waitressing on weekends, studying whenever she could find a quiet moment. Then, she'd worked even harder to build a better life for her son, sacrificing everything so he could have opportunities she'd never had. Now that Marcus had made something of himself, she worried constantly about him losing it all. But more than that, she worried about him losing himself in the process. I'm fine, Mom. What about dating? When was the last time you went out with a nice girl? Marcus rubbed his temples. I don't have time for dating. You have time for everything else. Work isn't everything, Marcus. But work was safe. Work made sense. You put in effort, you got results. People were more complicated. His last relationship had ended badly. Veronica had been beautiful, charming, and completely wrong for him. She'd loved the idea of dating a successful man more than she'd loved the man himself. When she'd started hinting about moving in together and combining their social circles, Marcus had realized she saw him as a status symbol, not a person. I should go, Mom. Early meeting tomorrow. Marcus? Evelyn's voice softened. I know you've been hurt, but don't close yourself off completely. The right woman is out there. After he hung up, Marcus stayed late in his office, reviewing reports and answering emails. The building grew quiet around him. Only the cleaning crews worked this late, moving through the halls like ghosts. He thought about what his mother had said. The right woman. What would she be like? Someone who understood his work, someone who wouldn't try to change him or use him, someone real. But where did a man like him meet real people? Everyone in his social circle had an agenda. Everyone wanted something from him. Marcus finally packed up and headed for the elevator. Tomorrow would be another busy day. Another day of building his empire, one deal at a time. But as he walked past the housekeeping cart parked in the hall, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something important. The next morning brought rain and a broken coffee machine in the staff break room. Lily sipped lukewarm instant coffee and tried to wake up while Tessa complained about her latest dating disaster. He showed up 40 minutes late and spent the whole dinner talking about his ex-girlfriend, Tessa said. Then he had the nerve to ask if I wanted to split the check. Maybe you should take a break from dating apps, Lily suggested. Easy for you to say. When's the last time you went on a date? Lily thought about it. March? This year? Last year. Tessa stared at her. Girl, we need to get you out there. You can't spend your whole life taking care of your dad and working. I'm fine. You're 26, not 66. You should be having fun. But fun cost money Lily didn't have, and men were complicated. Her last boyfriend, Derek, had seemed perfect at first. Sweet, funny, attentive, until he'd started borrowing money for emergencies and conveniently forgetting to pay her back. When she'd finally asked for her money, he'd disappeared. Some people weren't built for relationships. Maybe she was one of them. Earth to Lily, Tessa said. David wants to see you. David Chen, the operations manager, was waiting in his small office with a clipboard and a serious expression. He was Marcus Cole's right-hand man, efficient, fair, and always professional. "Sit down, Lily. How are things going?" "Good. Fine." She clasped her hands in her lap. Had she done something wrong? "Your performance reviews are excellent. Guests specifically request your section when they return. Mrs. Hamilton called yesterday to say her suite was spotless." Lily relaxed slightly. "Thank you. I have a proposition for you. We're hosting a major gala next Friday night. High-profile guests, potential investors, media coverage. We need extra staff for the event setup." "Of course, whatever you need. The pay is time and a half, plus tips from the guests. Interested?" Time and a half. That could cover the electric bill and maybe leave enough for groceries. "Yes, definitely." David made a note on his clipboard. "Report to the ballroom at 3 on Friday. Wear your best uniform. And Lily, this is a big night for the hotel. I'm counting on you." Walking back to her cart, Lily felt lighter than she had in weeks. Extra money meant breathing room. Maybe she could even buy Tom something special for his birthday next month. She spent the morning cleaning with extra energy, humming quietly as she worked. When she reached the executive floor, the hallway was busier than usual. Serious-looking people in expensive suits walked between offices, carrying thick folders and speaking in hushed voices. The gala preparations, probably. She'd never worked one of the hotel's fancy events before. It would be different from her usual routine, but different might be good. As she finished the last suite, Marcus Cole's office door opened. He emerged with 2 other men, all of them deep in conversation about contracts and timelines. "The guest list is final," one of the men said. 300 confirmed, including the mayor and several board members from the city's largest corporations. "Good," Marcus said. "This needs to be perfect. Our reputation depends on it." They walked past Lily without a glance. She was part of the furniture again, invisible and unremarkable. But for once, that didn't sting as much. Because next Friday night, she'd be part of something bigger. Even if it was just serving drinks and cleaning up afterward, she'd be there when the Cole Hamilton Hotel showed off its best face to the world. For one night, she'd get to see how the other half lived. Friday arrived faster than expected. Lily had spent the week mentally preparing for the gala, pressing her best uniform and making sure her shoes were polished. She'd even splurged on a small bottle of concealer to hide the dark circles under her eyes. The morning of the event, she'd woken up early and called Tom to check on him. "Big night at work today, Dad. I'm working the fancy gala." "That sounds important, sweetheart. You be careful around all those rich folks." Tom had never been comfortable with wealth. 40 years of fixing cars for people who looked down on him had left its mark. He trusted hard work and honest living, but he was suspicious of anyone who had too much too easily. "They're just people, Dad." "Maybe, but they're people. With power, and power changes folks. Promise me you'll be smart." "I promise." The ballroom was a different world. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows across cream-colored walls. Round tables draped in ivory cloth filled the space, each one set with more silverware than Lily had in her entire apartment. Fresh flowers, real ones, not the silk arrangements from the lobby, created centerpieces that probably cost more than her weekly paycheck. The setup had taken all day. Lily had watched in amazement as florists arranged thousands of white roses and caterers prepared dishes she couldn't even pronounce. Everything had to be perfect. Marcus Cole's reputation depended on it. "Impressive, right?" Tessa appeared beside her, carrying a tray of champagne glasses. "It's beautiful. Wait until you see the guests. I counted 3 city council members and at least 5 people I recognize from magazine covers." And Lily's job for the evening was simple. Circulate with appetizers, clear empty glasses, and stay invisible. The same thing she did every day, just in a fancier setting. The guests began arriving at 7. Through the service entrance, Lily watched them step out of cars that cost more than most people's houses. The women wore gowns that flowed like water. The men's tuxedos fit like they'd been sewn onto their bodies. And then she saw Marcus Cole. He stood near the entrance, greeting guests with the easy confidence of someone born to command attention. His tuxedo was midnight black, perfectly tailored to his tall frame. When he smiled, it transformed his entire face, making him look younger and more approachable than he ever did during business hours. A woman in a silver dress took his arm, laughing at something he'd said. She was beautiful in the way that expensive jewelry was beautiful. Polished, perfect, and completely untouchable. "That's Patricia Hamilton," Tessa whispered, appearing with another tray. "Hotel heiress. Word is she's been chasing Marcus for months." Lily watched Patricia lean closer to Marcus, her manicured hand resting on his chest. They looked perfect together, two people from the same world, speaking the same language of money and influence. "Stop staring," Tessa hissed. "You're supposed to be working." Lily grabbed a tray of mini quiches and dove into the crowd. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of, "Excuse me," and "Can I take that for you?" The guests were polite but distant, looking through her the same way Marcus always did. She was refilling her tray in the kitchen when she heard the commotion. "Someone spilled red wine all over Mrs. Patterson's dress," one of the servers said breathlessly. "David's looking for you, Lily. You're the best with stains." Lily hurried to the ladies' lounge, where she found a woman in her 60s dabbing frantically at a burgundy stain spreading across white silk. "Don't panic," Lily said gently. "We can fix this." Working quickly with club soda and patience, Lily managed to remove most of the stain. The woman was grateful, pressing a $20 tip into Lily's hand despite her protests. "You're an angel, dear. What's your name?" "Lily Hart, ma'am." "Well, Lily Hart, you just saved my evening. Thank you." Lily returned to the ballroom feeling accomplished. The night was almost over. Soon she could go home, count her tip money, and dream about how she'd spend the extra pay. She was collecting abandoned glasses from a corner table when the music changed. A slow, romantic song filled the air, and couples moved onto the dance floor. Marcus was dancing with Patricia, holding her close as they swayed to the music. They moved together perfectly, like they'd done this 100 times before. Lily looked away, focusing on her work, but something made her glance back, and for just a moment, Marcus's eyes met hers across the crowded room. Time stopped. He was looking at her, really looking, not through her or past her. His expression was unreadable, but there was something there. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Then Patricia said something that made him laugh, and the moment was broken. He spun her gracefully, and Lily became invisible again. But something had changed. For 5 seconds, Marcus Cole had seen her, and despite every sensible thought in her head, that 5-second glance made her heart beat faster. The gala ended at midnight. Lily helped stack chairs and collect forgotten purses, her feet aching in her practical shoes. The evening had been a success. She'd overheard David telling Marcus that several investors were interested in expanding their partnership. As she waited for her ride, she watched the last guests leave in their expensive cars, disappearing into the night like characters from a fairy tale. The valets worked efficiently, bringing around Porsches and BMWs while their owners laughed and made plans for tomorrow's business meetings. "Good work tonight," David said, handing her an envelope with her pay. "The guests were impressed with our service. Mrs. Patterson specifically asked me to thank you again for helping with her dress." Lily tucked the envelope into her purse without opening it. She'd count her earnings at home in private, where she could allow herself to feel excited about the extra money. "Thank you for giving me the opportunity." "You earned it. Same time next month?" "Next month? Didn't I mention? We're planning a smaller event for staff appreciation, less formal, but still important. I'll need reliable people." Lily walked to the bus stop in the cool night air, clutching her earnings. It had been a good night, a profitable night, a night that proved she could handle more responsibility when given the chance. But as she sat on the empty bus, watching the city lights blur past the window, she couldn't stop thinking about that moment on the dance floor. The way Marcus had looked at her, really looked, for those few precious seconds. For 5 seconds, she hadn't been invisible. And now she couldn't help wondering what it would feel like to stay visible, to be seen not as staff but as a woman, to matter to someone like Marcus Cole. It was a dangerous thought, the kind of thought that led to heartbreak and humiliation, the kind of thought Tom would warn her against, the kind of thought that could cost her the job she desperately needed. But as the bus carried her home to her small apartment and her careful, quiet life, Lily couldn't quite make herself stop wondering. What if Marcus Cole could see her as more than just part of the furniture? What if she was brave enough to let him? The bus pulled up to her stop, and Lily gathered her purse and her courage. Tomorrow would be another day of being invisible on the executive floor. But tonight, for just a few hours, she had been part of something magical. And maybe that was enough, or maybe it was just the beginning. Monday morning came too soon. Lily stood in front of her bathroom mirror, trying to convince herself that everything would go back to normal. The gala was over. The magic was done. Today she'd returned to being invisible, and that was fine. That was safe. But the woman looking back at her in the mirror seemed different. Her eyes were brighter, more aware, like something had awakened inside her during those 5 seconds of eye contact with Marcus Cole. She'd barely slept over the weekend. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus on the dance floor, the way he'd looked at her across the crowded ballroom, not through her, not past her, but at her, like she was someone worth seeing. Tom had called Sunday afternoon, asking how the gala had gone. "Fine, Dad. Just work." "You sound different, sweetheart. Happier." If only he knew why. Tom would have a heart attack if he knew his daughter was daydreaming about the millionaire owner of her hotel. He'd raised her to be practical, to keep her feet on the ground and her expectations realistic. Rich folks live in a different world, he'd always said. They play by different rules. Don't get yourself confused about where you belong. Where she belonged was in her housekeeping uniform, pushing her cart down empty hallways, invisible to the people who mattered. Where she belonged was safe. "Girl, you're glowing," Tessa said, falling into step beside her. "What happened after I left Friday night?" "Nothing happened." That's why you're practically floating down the hallway." They reached the staff lounge, where several other employees were grabbing coffee and checking their schedules. Janelle Brooks looked up from her phone when Lily walked in. "Heard you made quite an impression at the gala," Janelle said. Her tone was friendly, but there was something sharp underneath. "Mrs. Patterson couldn't stop talking about how helpful you were." "I just cleaned a stain." "Right, just cleaning." Janelle's smile didn't reach her eyes. Must be nice to get noticed by the VIP guests. Lily felt heat creep up her neck. She grabbed her cart and headed for the elevator, Tessa close behind. "Don't listen to her," Tessa whispered as the doors closed. "Janelle's been bitter ever since she didn't get picked for the gala staff." But Lily couldn't shake the feeling that Janelle had meant something more, something about being noticed that had nothing to do with cleaning stains. The executive floor felt different too. Every footstep echoed louder. Every door closing sounded like thunder. Lily found herself listening for Marcus's voice, watching for his tall figure to appear in the hallway. She was cleaning Suite 1205 when she heard familiar footsteps. Her heart started beating faster before she even looked up. Marcus appeared in the doorway, briefcase in hand. For a moment, he just stood there, looking at her, really looking like he had at the gala. "Good morning, Lily." The sound of her name on his lips made her stomach flip. He'd never said her name before. She wasn't even sure he knew it. In 3 years of working this floor, their interactions had been limited to polite nods and the occasional, "Excuse me," when she was blocking a doorway. "Good morning, Mr. Cole. How are you feeling after Friday night?" That was a long shift. The fact that he remembered she'd worked late, that he cared enough to ask how she was feeling. It made her chest tight with something she couldn't name. "I'm fine. Thank you for asking." He stepped into the suite, closing the door behind him. Lily's pulse jumped. They were alone in the elegant room, sunlight streaming through the windows, the city sprawling below them like a living map. This was dangerous. Being alone with him, feeling the pull of attraction that seemed to grow stronger every time she saw him. She should leave, make an excuse about needing to finish her other rooms, but she couldn't move. "I wanted to thank you personally," Marcus said. "Several guests mentioned how professional and helpful you were. You represented the hotel beautifully." "I was just doing my job." "No, you were doing more than that." His voice was warm, genuine. "You saved Mrs. Patterson's evening, that kind of quick thinking and care. It matters." Lily clutched her cleaning cloth tighter. This conversation felt too personal, too much like he was seeing her as a person instead of just staff, like he was noticing things about her that went beyond her work performance. "I should get back to work." "Of course, I didn't mean to keep you." But Marcus didn't move toward the door. Instead, he looked around the suite like he was seeing it for the first time. "Do you ever wonder what it's like, living in rooms like this?" The question surprised her. It was so unexpected, so personal, like he was genuinely curious about her thoughts, her dreams. Sometimes. I grew up in a one-bedroom apartment with my mother. Shared bathroom down the hall, heat that barely worked in winter. I used to dream about spaces like this. He touched the marble countertop with reverent fingers. Now I own them, but sometimes I miss that little apartment. It felt more like home than any of this. Why was he telling her this? Lily stared at him, trying to understand what was happening. Rich men didn't share personal stories with their maids. They didn't look at housekeeping staff like they mattered, like their opinions were worth hearing. But Marcus was looking at her like she was the most important person in the room. I should go, she said quietly. Lily. Her name again, softer this time. Would you like to have coffee sometime, somewhere outside the hotel? The words hung in the air between them. Coffee? Like a date? Like she was a woman he wanted to know better, not just an employee who'd cleaned a stain. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because you're you and I'm... She gestured at her uniform, her cart, the invisible life she lived in the margins of his world. You're what? Nobody. Marcus stepped closer, and Lily's breath caught. You're not nobody, Lily. Not to me. Not anymore. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was exactly what Tom had warned her about. Powerful people who could hurt you without even trying. Rich men who played games with girls like her and walked away when they got bored. I have to go. This time, Marcus stepped aside. But as she pushed her cart toward the door, he said, The coffee shop on 5th Street, tomorrow at 3, if you change your mind. Lily fled to the elevator, her hands shaking as she pressed the button. The doors couldn't close fast enough. That night, Lily sat at her tiny kitchen table, staring at her phone. She'd started to call Tom 3 times, but what would she say? Dad, the millionaire owner of my hotel, asked me out for coffee, and I think I might actually want to go. Tom would drive himself to the hospital from worry. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. You've been weird all day. Spill. Can't talk about it yet. That bad or that good? Lily stared at the question. Was it bad or good? She couldn't tell the difference anymore. Maybe both. Call me if you need me. Love you? Lily set the phone aside and tried to think clearly. Marcus Cole was her boss's boss. He was rich and successful and probably had women throwing themselves at him every day. What could he possibly want with her? But she kept remembering the way he'd looked at her in the suite, like she mattered, like her opinion meant something, like she was worth seeing. When was the last time anyone had looked at her that way? Derek had never looked at her like that. He'd looked at her like she was useful, someone who would cook his dinner and lend him money and not ask too many questions. When she'd finally asked where their relationship was going, he'd laughed. Come on, Lily, you're sweet, but you're not exactly wife material. I need someone who can keep up with my lifestyle. His lifestyle of borrowing money and making big plans that never happened. She'd been so hurt and angry, but also relieved. At least she knew where she stood. But Marcus was different, successful, honest, built his empire with his own hands. What if he really did see something in her? What if this wasn't a game? What if it was real? Lily looked at the clock. 2:30. If she was going to meet him, she needed to leave now. She grabbed her jacket and ran for the bus. The coffee shop on 5th Street was small and warm, with mismatched chairs and the smell of fresh pastries. Marcus was already there when Lily arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of him. He stood when he saw her, pulling out her chair like she was someone important, someone worth treating well. The gesture was so natural, so automatic, that Lily wondered if this was how he treated all women, or if she was special somehow. I wasn't sure you'd come. I wasn't sure either. The coffee was perfect, not too strong with just enough cream. Marcus had somehow remembered exactly how she'd made her coffee in the staff room during the brief moments when their paths had crossed. How long have you been watching me? She asked. Longer than I should have been. His honesty surprised her. Most men she'd known would have tried to play it cool, act like they hadn't been thinking about her. I told myself I was just making sure my staff was doing their jobs well. But that wasn't true. What was true? That you're beautiful and kind, and you work harder than anyone else on that floor. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes intense. I've been an idiot, Lily, walking past you every day like you weren't there when you were the most interesting person in the building. I'm not interesting. I clean rooms. You saved Mrs. Patterson's dress with nothing but club soda and determination. You text with your friend during breaks and always smile when you read her messages. You take the late bus because you stop at the pharmacy every Monday for your father's medication. Marcus's voice was gentle, knowing. You think I didn't notice, but I did. I notice everything about you. Lily's cheeks burned. How long had he been watching her? And why hadn't she seen it? She thought she'd been invisible, moving through his world without leaving a trace. My dad's sick, she said quietly. High blood pressure, heart problems. The medication is expensive. I know. I've seen you counting money in the pharmacy line. You followed me? Once, I was worried about you. You looked sad that day, and I couldn't stop thinking about why. Marcus reached across the table like he might touch her hand, then stopped himself. I know this is complicated. I know I'm your boss, and this could cause problems for both of us. Then why are you doing this? Because I can't stop thinking about you. Because you looked at me at the gala like I was just a man, not a bank account or a business opportunity. Because when you smile, really smile, it changes your whole face. He paused, studying her expression. Because I've been successful at everything in my life except connecting with people. Real people. People who see me for who I am, not what I can give them. Lily felt something crack open in her chest. He was lonely. This powerful, successful man who seemed to have everything was as isolated as she was, just in a different way. I can't lose my job. You won't, I promise you that. You can't promise that. If people find out we're whatever this is, they'll say I'm sleeping my way to a promotion. They'll say you're playing favorites. The fear in her voice was real, sharp. I've worked too hard to build my reputation. I can't have people thinking I'm the kind of woman who trades favors for job security. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, seeming to really hear what she was saying. You're right. I can't promise that people won't talk, but I can promise that I'll protect you as much as possible. How? By being careful, by keeping this separate from work, by making sure nobody can question your professional abilities. He paused, his expression serious. And by being honest about what I want. What do you want? To know you, the real you, not just the woman who cleans my hotel. I want to hear about your father and your dreams and what makes you laugh. I want to take you somewhere nicer than this coffee shop and watch you try food you've never tasted before. Marcus's voice was quiet, intimate. I want to matter to you the way you've started to matter to me. Lily stared into her coffee cup. This was crazy. She was a maid from a one-bedroom apartment who worried about paying the electric bill. He was a millionaire who owned buildings and made decisions that affected hundreds of people. But the way he looked at her made her feel like none of that mattered, like they were just two people who'd found something special and were brave enough to reach for it. This is insane, she said. Probably. It could ruin everything. It could. I'm scared. Marcus smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. It transformed his whole face, making him look younger and more approachable. Me too. They talked for 2 hours, about everything and nothing. Marcus told her about growing up poor, about working construction to pay for college, about the first hotel he'd bought with borrowed money and sheer determination. Lily talked about her mother's death, about taking care of Tom, about the dreams she'd put aside to make sure the bills got paid. When they finally left the coffee shop, the sun was setting. Marcus walked her to the bus stop, his hands in his pockets like he was afraid to touch her. Can I see you again? He asked. I don't know. Think about it, please. The bus arrived and Lily climbed on without looking back, but as it pulled away from the curb, she saw Marcus standing under the streetlight, watching her go. The next few days at work were torture. Every time Lily saw Marcus in the hallway, her heart raced. Every time he walked past without speaking, she felt disappointed and relieved at the same time. He was being professional, keeping his promise to separate their personal conversation from work, but it was driving her crazy. You're acting weird, Tessa said Thursday morning, weirder than usual. Thanks. I'm serious. You jump every time someone walks down the hall, and you've been staring at your phone like it might explode. Lily's phone had been silent for 3 days. No texts from Marcus, no calls, no sign that their coffee date had meant anything to him. Maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe he'd realized she was right about how complicated this could get. Maybe she'd imagined the whole thing. "Earth to Lily," Tessa said. "David wants to see you." David Chen was waiting in his office with a clipboard and a serious expression. Lily's stomach dropped. Had someone seen her with Marcus? Was she about to lose her job? "Sit down, Lily. We need to talk." "Did I do something wrong?" "No, nothing like that. Actually, the opposite." David smiled. "I've been impressed with your work lately. You've been with us for 3 years, and your performance reviews are consistently excellent." Lily relaxed slightly. "Thank you. I have a proposition. We're expanding our guest services department, and I think you'd be perfect for cross-training. Front desk work, guest relations, maybe even event coordination eventually." "Cross-training? Better pay, regular hours, more interaction with guests. It would mean leaving housekeeping, but it's a step up." "Interested?" Lily's mind raced. A promotion, better pay. Regular hours meant she could spend more time with Tom, maybe even save a little money for the future. But it also meant more visibility, more interaction with management, more chances for people to notice if she was getting special treatment. "Can I think about it?" "Of course, take your time. But Lily..." David leaned forward. "This opportunity is based entirely on your merit, your work ethic, your attitude with guests, your reliability. I want you to know that." Walking back to her cart, Lily wondered if the timing was just a coincidence, or if someone had recommended her for the position, someone like Marcus Cole. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "The promotion is yours because you earned it, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy you might be staying with the company." Lily stared at the message. He'd gotten her number somehow. He was thinking about her, and he wanted her to know the promotion was real, not some favor. She typed back, "How did you get my number?" "HR directory. I was careful about it. People will talk if they see me texting my boss. Then don't save my number. Delete these messages. But meet me tomorrow night. Same coffee shop. Please." Lily looked around the empty hallway, then quickly deleted the conversation. But she kept the phone number memorized. Tomorrow night felt like a lifetime away. Friday dragged by like a broken clock. Lily cleaned her assigned suites with extra care, trying to distract herself from thoughts of Marcus and coffee shops and the way he'd smiled when she'd finally showed up. She'd decided to meet him again. The decision surprised her, but it felt right. Whatever this was between them, it was real. And she was tired of running from real things. At 5 o'clock, she clocked out and headed for the staff exit. Tessa was waiting by the door with a concerned expression. "We need to talk," Tessa said. They walked to the bus stop in silence. When they sat down on the bench, Tessa turned to face her. "Janelle's been asking questions about you." "What kind of questions?" "About the gala, about why you got picked for guest services training, about whether you're getting special treatment." Tessa's voice was serious. "She's stirring up trouble, Lily, making people think you're sleeping your way up the ladder." Lily's stomach clenched. "I'm not. I know that, you know that, but rumors don't care about truth." Tessa grabbed her hand. "What's going on? And don't say nothing because you're glowing like a woman in love." Lily looked at her best friend, the only person who'd stuck by her through every crisis and disappointment. Tessa deserved the truth. "Marcus Cole asked me out for coffee." Tessa's eyes went wide. "Marcus Cole? The owner, Marcus Cole? It's not what you think." "What do I think?" "That he's some rich guy playing games with the help." "Isn't he?" Lily was quiet for a moment. "I don't think so. I think he's lonely, and I think he sees me as more than just staff." "Lily," Tessa's voice was gentle but worried, "this is dangerous. He's your boss. If this goes wrong, I could lose my job, I know. You could lose more than that. You could lose yourself." Tessa squeezed her hand. "I've seen what happens when girls like us get involved with men like him. It never ends well." "Maybe this is different." "Maybe. But what if it's not? What if he gets bored? What if his family doesn't approve? What if the board thinks he's making poor decisions?" Tessa's eyes were sad. "What happens to you then?" Lily didn't have answers, but she also couldn't stop thinking about the way Marcus had looked at her in the coffee shop, like she was precious, like she was worth protecting. "I have to try, Tessa. I've spent my whole life playing it safe, and where has it gotten me? I'm 26 years old and I've never taken a real risk. Because risks are expensive when you don't have money to fall back on. I know. But what if this is my chance? What if I let fear stop me from something that could change my life? Tessa sighed. If you're determined to do this, at least be smart about it. Don't let anyone see you together. Don't text him from work. And for God's sake, don't fall too hard too fast. I'll be careful. You better be. Because if Janelle finds out about this, she'll make sure everyone knows, and then it won't matter how you feel about each other. The gossip will destroy both of you. As the bus arrived, Lily thought about Tessa's warning. Janelle was already suspicious. Other people would be watching now, looking for any sign of favoritism or special treatment. But Marcus was worth the risk. She could feel it in her bones, in the way her heart raced when she thought about seeing him again. For the first time in her life, she was going to choose hope over fear, even if it scared her to death. The coffee shop was busier on Friday night, filled with couples on dates and friends catching up after work. Lily spotted Marcus in the same corner table, but this time he looked nervous. When she sat down, he smiled with obvious relief. I thought you might change your mind. I almost did. What stopped you? Lily thought about Tessa's warnings, about Janelle's suspicious looks, about all the ways this could go wrong. You did. The way you looked at me when you said I mattered. Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. His skin was warm, calloused from his construction days. You do matter, Lily, more than you know. They talked for hours again, but this time it felt different, more intimate, more real. Marcus told her about his ex-girlfriend, Veronica, who'd loved his success but not him. Lily told him about Derek, who'd used her kindness against her. I'm not Derek, Marcus said quietly. I'm not Veronica. I know. That's why this feels so... He searched for the word. Scary? Perfect. When the coffee shop closed at 10, they walked slowly to the bus stop. This time, Marcus didn't keep his hands in his pockets. He held her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. I want to see you again, he said. Somewhere nicer, somewhere we can talk without worrying about being interrupted. Where? My apartment, tomorrow night. I'll cook dinner. Lily's breath caught. His apartment was crossing a line. Coffee was safe, public, easy to explain. Dinner at his place was intimate, private, the kind of thing that looked exactly like what Janelle was already whispering about. I don't know. Just dinner, just us talking somewhere comfortable. Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. I want to know everything about you, Lily. Your favorite books, the music you listen to when you're sad, what you were like as a kid. I want to hear about your dreams, the ones you put aside for everyone else. Why? Because I'm falling for you. Hard and fast and probably stupidly, but I can't help it. His honesty took her breath away. And I think you might be falling for me, too. He was right. She was falling, despite every reasonable voice in her head telling her to run, falling for his gentle hands and serious eyes, falling for the way he listened when she talked, like her words were the most important thing in the world. This is crazy, she whispered. The best things usually are. The bus arrived and Lily hesitated at the door. Everything would change if she said yes to dinner. There would be no going back to being invisible, to the safety of her small, careful life. But maybe she didn't want to go back. Maybe she was ready to be seen. Text me your address, she said, and stepped onto the bus. Through the window she saw Marcus smile like she'd just given him the world. And maybe she had. Saturday evening found Lily standing outside Marcus's apartment building, her heart hammering against her ribs. The address he'd texted led to a sleek high-rise in the city's most expensive district. Through the glass lobby, she could see marble floors and modern art that probably cost more than her yearly salary. A doorman in a crisp uniform opened the door for her. Good evening, miss. How may I help you? I'm here to see Marcus Cole, apartment 2847. The doorman checked his list and smiled politely. He's expecting you. Elevator bank B, 28th floor. The elevator ride felt endless. Lily watched the numbers climb, her reflection staring back from the polished metal doors. She'd changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on a simple black dress she'd bought for her mother's funeral 5 years ago. It was the nicest thing she owned, but she felt underdressed for this building, this world. What was she doing here? This was Marcus's life, marble and doormen and apartments that took up entire floors. She was about to have dinner with a man who probably spent more on wine than she made in a month. The elevator opened with a soft chime. Marcus's door was at the end of a quiet hallway. Lily took a deep breath and knocked. Marcus opened the door immediately, like he'd been waiting by it. He was dressed casually, dark jeans and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. No suit, no businessman mask, just him, looking nervous and hopeful and surprisingly vulnerable. "You came. You sound surprised. I've been terrified all day that you'd change your mind." Marcus stepped aside to let her in. "Come in, please." His apartment was nothing like what she'd expected. Yes, it was large and beautifully furnished, but it felt warm somehow. Lived in. Books lined the walls, actual paper books with worn spines that looked like they'd been read multiple times. A guitar sat in one corner, and family photos covered a side table. "This is beautiful," Lily said, meaning it. "It's too big for one person, honestly, but the view sold me." Marcus gestured toward the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. "Would you like some wine? Or I have sparkling water, coffee, whatever you'd prefer." "Wine sounds nice." He disappeared into the kitchen, and Lily wandered to the windows. The city spread out below them like a constellation, millions of lights twinkling in the darkness. Somewhere down there was her tiny apartment, her careful life, the world where she belonged. But up here, surrounded by Marcus's books and warmth and the gentle jazz music playing softly from hidden speakers, she felt something she'd never experienced before. She felt like she belonged. "The view's better from the balcony," Marcus said, returning with 2 glasses of red wine. "But it's a little cold tonight." "I don't mind the cold." He opened the sliding door and led her onto a spacious balcony with comfortable outdoor furniture and small heaters that cast a golden glow. The wind was cool but not unpleasant, and the view was breathtaking. "My God," Lily whispered, "I never get tired of it. Sometimes I sit out here in the mornings with coffee and watch the city wake up." Marcus handed her the wine. "It reminds me how far I've come, but also how small I am in the grand scheme of things." They stood side by side at the railing, not touching but close enough that she could smell his cologne, something subtle and clean that made her want to lean closer. "Tell me about your mother," Lily said. "You mentioned her before." Marcus smiled and his whole face softened. "Evelyn. She's incredible. Raised me alone after my father left when I was 8. Worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat and still found time to help me with homework every night. That must have been hard." "It was, but it taught me what real strength looks like." Marcus took a sip of wine. "She sacrificed everything for me. Now I try to give her everything she never had. A nice house, financial security, the knowledge that she'll never have to worry about money again. She must be proud of you." "She is. But she also worries that I work too hard, that I'm missing out on the important things in life." Marcus glanced at Lily. "She wants me to find someone to share all this with." "What about you? What do you want?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, staring out at the lights. "I want what she had with my father before he left. Real love. The kind where you choose each other every day, not just when it's convenient." "What happened? With your father?" "He couldn't handle the responsibility. Said he was too young to be tied down, that he needed to find himself." Marcus's voice was matter-of-fact, but Lily could hear the old hurt underneath. "Left on a Tuesday morning, kissed me goodbye and told me he'd see me after school. Never came back." Lily set down her wine and turned to face him. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago, but it taught me that promises matter, that if you say you care about someone, you prove it with your actions, not just your words." The way he looked at her when he said it made Lily's chest tight, like he was making a promise without saying it outright. "What about your parents?" Marcus asked. "You mentioned your father." "Mom died 5 years ago, cancer. Dad never remarried, said she was the only woman for him." Lily smiled sadly. "He loved her completely. When she died, it broke. Something in him that never healed. Is that why you take care of him now?" "Partly, but also because he took care of me my whole life. When other kids' dads were too busy or too tired, mine was at every school play and soccer game. He taught me how to change a tire and balance a checkbook and stand up for myself. He sounds like a good man. He is. He'd probably have a heart attack if he knew I was here. Why? Lily took a sip of wine, choosing her words carefully. Tom doesn't trust rich people. Says they play by different rules and regular folks like us always get hurt when we forget our place. And what do you think? I think... Lily looked at Marcus, really looked at him, at his kind eyes and the nervous way he was holding his wine glass, at the family photos she'd seen inside and the guitar that suggested hidden talents. I think maybe some rules are meant to be broken. Something shifted between them in that moment. The air felt charged, full of possibility and promise, and the kind of electricity that made her skin feel too warm despite the cool night air. Dinner should be ready, Marcus said softly. I hope you're hungry. Marcus had cooked himself, not ordered from some expensive restaurant or hired a chef, but actually stood in his kitchen and prepared a meal. The table was set simply, good plates and real silverware, but nothing ostentatious. Candles flickered softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls. You cook? Lily asked as Marcus pulled out her chair. Mom made sure I knew how to take care of myself, said she didn't want to raise a man who expected women to wait on him. The meal was delicious, grilled salmon with roasted vegetables and wild rice. They talked while they ate, the conversation flowing as easily as it had at the coffee shop. Marcus told her about his construction days, about the first hotel he'd bought with borrowed money, and how terrified he'd been that he'd made a huge mistake. Lily shared stories about her mother, about the woman who'd taught her that dignity wasn't about how much money you had, but how you treated other people. She would have liked you, Lily said, surprising herself with the admission. You think so? She always said the measure of a person wasn't what they had, but what they did with it, how they treated people who couldn't do anything for them. And how do I measure up? Lily thought about the way Marcus had spoken to her that first morning in the suite, how he'd learned her coffee preferences and worried when she looked sad. You measure up just fine. After dinner, Marcus showed her around the apartment. His bedroom was spacious but comfortable, with more books and a photograph of him with his mother at his college graduation. She's lovely, Lily said. I can't wait for you to meet her. The words hung in the air between them. Meeting his mother implied a future, a relationship serious enough to include family. Marcus, Lily started, but he stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. I know this is crazy, he said quietly. I know all the reasons it shouldn't work. But I can't stop thinking about you, Lily. I can't stop wanting to know everything about you. What do you want to know? Everything. What you dream about at night. What makes you laugh so hard you snort. What you were like as a little girl. Whether you've ever been in love. The last question made her breath catch. Once. I thought I was. Derek? Derek, Lily nodded. But looking back, I don't think I loved him as much as I loved the idea of being loved, of mattering to someone. And now? Marcus was so close now that she had to tilt her head back to look at him. His eyes were dark, intense, filled with something that made her heart race. Now I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of how much I want something I can't have. Who says you can't have it? Common sense, society, your mother, my father. Take your pick. Marcus reached up and traced her cheek with gentle fingers. What if we stopped listening to everyone else and started listening to ourselves? What are we listening for? This, Marcus said and kissed her. His lips were soft, warm, perfect against hers. Lily's entire world narrowed down to this moment, this man, this kiss that tasted like wine and possibility and all the dreams she'd been afraid to admit she had. When they broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. Lily, Marcus said against her forehead, I know this is complicated. It doesn't have to be. Yes, it does. Lily stepped back, putting space between them before she lost her ability to think clearly. You're my boss, Marcus, and I'm nobody special. Don't say that. His voice was fierce. Don't ever say that. It's true. I clean rooms for a living. I worry about paying rent. I shop at thrift stores and ride the bus and eat ramen for dinner half the week. So what? So what happens when you get tired of slumming it? When you remember that you could have any woman you want? Women who know which fork to use at fancy dinners and how to talk to investors and what to wear to charity galas. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. Not mockingly, but like she'd said something completely absurd. You think I care about any of that? Don't you? Lily, I've dated those women. I know exactly what they're like. They're beautiful and polished and utterly boring. They want me for my money and my status, not for me. Marcus stepped closer again. You see me. The real me. Not the successful businessman or the hotel owner or the millionaire. Just Marcus. Just Marcus is pretty wonderful, Lily admitted quietly. Then stay. Please. Don't let fear make this decision for you. Lily looked around his beautiful apartment, at the candles still flickering on the dinner table, at this man who was looking at her. Like she hung the moon. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was a mistake, that women like her didn't get fairy tale endings with men like him, but her heart was screaming louder. I should go home. Should or want to? Should. That's not what I asked. Lily closed her eyes. I don't want to go home. I want to stay here with you and pretend that the real world doesn't exist. Then stay. For tonight? For as long as you'll have me. The promise in his voice made her knees weak. This was really happening. Marcus Cole, successful, handsome, completely out of her league Marcus Cole, wanted her. Not just for tonight, but for longer. Maybe much longer. Okay, she whispered. Okay? I'll stay. Tonight. And we'll figure out the rest as we go. Marcus smiled like she'd just given him the world. We'll figure it out together. He was right, Lily thought, as he led her back to the living room. Whatever happened next, whatever complications arose, they'd face them together. The thought was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. For the first time in her life, she was choosing love over fear. Sunday morning arrived with gentle sunlight and the distant sounds of the city waking up. Lily opened her eyes to find herself curled up on Marcus's couch, covered with a soft throw blanket. He was in the kitchen, moving quietly, the smell of coffee and something delicious filling the apartment. They'd talked until almost 3 a.m, sharing stories and dreams and secrets. When Lily had started yawning, Marcus had insisted she stay rather than take the bus home so late. He'd been a perfect gentleman, giving her one of his t-shirts to sleep in and taking the guest room. But waking up in his space, wearing his clothes, felt impossibly intimate. Good morning, Marcus said, appearing with a mug of perfectly prepared coffee. How did you sleep? Better than I have in months. Lily sat up, accepting the coffee gratefully. You didn't have to let me sleep so late. You looked peaceful. I didn't want to wake you. Marcus sat on the edge of the coffee table. I made breakfast. Nothing fancy, just pancakes and eggs. You made pancakes? Mom's recipe. She always said breakfast was the most important meal, especially when you're trying to impress someone special. The word special made Lily's heart flutter. About last night, she started. Do you regret it? No, but I'm scared about what happens next. Marcus reached over and took her hand. What happens next is we take it one day at a time. We're careful at work. We figure out how to be together without causing problems for either of us. Is that possible? I don't know, but I want to try. Marcus squeezed her fingers. Do you? Before Lily could answer, her phone rang. Tom's name appeared on the screen, and panic shot through her. He never called this early unless something was wrong. Dad, she answered, heart racing. Lily? Sweetheart, I'm sorry to call so early, but I had another episode last night. What kind of episode? Are you okay? Are you at the hospital? Marcus was immediately alert, moving closer with concern written all over his face. I'm home now. Mrs. Patterson brought me back this morning. Just a little chest pain, nothing serious. The doctor said it was probably stress. Stress about what? Oh, money worries, the usual. Tom's voice was tired, but trying to sound casual. The insurance company is giving me trouble about covering the new medication Dr. Rodriguez wants to try. Lily's stomach sank. New medication meant more money they didn't have. How much trouble? It's expensive, sweetheart, more than I can manage right now. How much? Tom was quiet for a moment. $300 a month. I told them I'd have to think about it. $300 a month. Lily did quick math in her head. Even with the raise from her promotion, there was no way she could cover Tom's current expenses plus 300 more every month. Dad, you can't just think about it. If the doctor says you need it, I'll be fine, Lily. Don't worry about your old man. I'm coming over. You don't need to. I'm coming over, Lily said firmly. I'll be there in an hour. She hung up and immediately started looking for her shoes, panic making her movements jerky and quick. What's wrong? Marcus asked quietly. My dad had chest pains last night. He needs new medication, but insurance won't cover it. Lily found her shoes and started putting them on. I have to go see him. How much is the medication? $300 a month. The number sounded even worse when she said it out loud. Lily, I have to go. She was already moving toward the door, her mind racing through options that didn't exist. Maybe she could take on more hours. Maybe there were other assistance programs. Maybe she could sell something, though she couldn't think of anything valuable she owned. Let me drive you, Marcus said. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. No, thank you. I need to handle this myself. You don't have to handle everything alone. Lily stopped at the door and turned to look at him. Marcus was watching her with concern and something else, something that looked like he wanted to fix this for her, to make it all better with his money and resources. Yes, I do, she said quietly. This is my life, Marcus. This is what it looks like when you don't have a safety net, when one medical emergency can destroy everything you've worked for. I could help? No. Lily's voice was firm. I won't be the kind of woman who takes money from men. I've seen where that leads. Marcus looked like she'd slapped him. I'm not trying to buy you, Lily. I know, but that's what people would say. That's what I would wonder about myself. Lily took a shaky breath. I have to go take care of my father. That's my priority right now. And where does that leave us? Lily looked around Marcus's beautiful apartment, at the breakfast he'd made, and the coffee growing cold on the table. Last night had been perfect. Too perfect. Like a fairy tale that couldn't survive contact with real life. I don't know, she said honestly. I need time to think. Lily, please. I have to go. She left before he could say anything else, before he could offer to help again, before she could weaken and let him solve her problems with his checkbook. Because even though he'd say it wasn't about the money, it would always be about the money. In the elevator, riding down from his perfect life to her complicated one, Lily tried not to cry. Last night had been beautiful. This morning was reality, and reality was more powerful than any fairy tale. Tom's house was a small 2-bedroom in a neighborhood that had seen better days. The paint was peeling slightly, and the front step needed repair, but it was clean and well-maintained. Lily found him in the kitchen, making himself tea with hands that shook slightly. He looked older than she remembered, more fragile. Hey, Dad. There's my girl. Tom smiled and hugged her carefully. You didn't have to rush over here. I'm fine. You had chest pains, Dad. That's not fine. Just a little scare. You know how these things go. Lily knew exactly how these things went. Mom's cancer had started as just a little fatigue. Tom's heart problems had begun as just a little indigestion. In her experience, little medical issues had a way of becoming big ones very quickly. Tell me about the medication. Tom sighed and sat heavily at his small kitchen table. Dr. Rodriguez thinks it might help prevent future episodes, regulate my heart rhythm better than what I'm taking now. But insurance won't cover it. They want me to try 2 other medications first, prove the cheaper ones don't work before they'll approve the expensive one. Tom's voice was tired, defeated. Could take months, and no guarantee they'll approve it even then. What did Dr. Rodriguez say about waiting? Tom was quiet for a moment. He said sooner would be better than later. Fear clawed at Lily's throat. How much better? Lily, sweetheart, don't worry about Dad. How much better? Tom met her eyes and she saw the fear he was trying to hide. He thinks waiting could be risky. With my history, my age, he wants me on the better medication as soon as possible. $300 a month, $3,600 a year, more money than Lily had in savings, more than she could realistically come up with even with her promotion. But what choice did she have? Tom was all the family she had left. We'll make it work, she said firmly. Lily, no, I won't have you destroying your life for me. It's not destroying my life, it's taking care of my father. What about that young man? Lily's head snapped up. What young man? The one who's got you glowing like a woman in love. You think I don't notice these things? Tom smiled sadly. You've been different lately. Happier. I was hoping maybe you'd found someone special. It's complicated. Rich boy. Lily's silence was answer enough. Oh, sweetheart. Tom reached across the table and took her hand. Those complications just got a lot more complicated, didn't they? I can handle it. Can you? Can you take his money to pay for my medication and still look at yourself in the mirror? Can you accept his help and not wonder if that's why he's with you? Tom's questions hit too close to home. I won't take his money. Then what will you do? I'll figure something out. Lily, I said I'll figure something out. Her voice was sharp with stress and fear. Maybe I can get a second job. Maybe there are payment plans. Tom studied her face for a long moment. What if they don't? What if none of those maybes work out? Then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And the young man, what about him? Lily thought about Marcus's apartment, about the way he'd looked at her when she'd left. I don't know, she said quietly. I honestly don't know. Tom squeezed her hand. Love shouldn't be this hard, sweetheart. Real love is always hard, Dad. You taught me that. I also said to be smart about your fights. Pick the ones you can win. Lily looked around Tom's small kitchen at the medicine bottles lined up on the counter. Some fights weren't about winning. Some fights were about doing the right thing, no matter the cost. I'm going to win this one, Dad, I promise. As she said the words, Lily tried to ignore the voice in her head asking what winning would cost her. Because the truth was, she was afraid she already knew. Monday morning at the hotel felt like stepping into another world. After a weekend of worry about Tom and confusion about Marcus, the familiar routine felt both comforting and surreal. Lily had barely slept Sunday night, her mind spinning through impossible scenarios. None of her calculations worked. Even with overtime and her promotion, there wasn't enough money. The only solution that worked on paper was the one she couldn't accept. You look terrible, Tessa said, falling into step beside her as they headed to the staff locker room. Thanks, just what every woman wants to hear. I'm serious. You look like you haven't slept in days. Tessa stopped walking and grabbed Lily's arm. What happened? My dad needs new heart medication, $300 a month. Insurance won't cover it. Jesus, can you afford that? Not even close. Tessa was quiet for a moment, doing her own mental math. What about Mr. Perfect? I'm sure he could... No, Lily's voice was flat. I'm not taking money from Marcus. Even if it could save your father's life? The question hit Lily like a physical blow. That's not fair. Life's not fair. Your dad's sick. You need money and you're dating a millionaire. Seems like simple math to me. I'm not sleeping with him. Okay, dating, whatever you want to call it. Tessa's voice softened. Look, I get it. You don't want to be dependent on him, but this isn't about pride, Lily. This is about your dad. It's not that simple, isn't it? Before Lily could respond, David Chen appeared in the hallway. Lily, I need to see you in my office. Lily's stomach dropped. Had someone seen her leaving Marcus's building? Had Janelle's gossip reached David's ears? Was this about the promotion? David closed his office door and gestured for her to sit. His expression was unreadable. How are you feeling about the guest services transition? Good. Fine. I'm excited about the opportunity. Good. Because I have another opportunity for you. David consulted his clipboard. We're hosting a series of business dinners over the next month. High-profile clients, potential investors. I need someone to coordinate with catering. Make sure everything runs smoothly. That sounds wonderful. The pay is excellent, almost double your hourly rate, but it would mean some long nights, some weekend work. Can you handle that? Double her hourly rate. It felt like a gift from heaven. Absolutely. I can handle whatever you need. Excellent. David made a note. The first dinner is Wednesday night. Marcus Cole will be hosting. You'll work directly with him on the arrangements. Lily's heart stopped. Work directly with Marcus, after she'd walked out of his apartment and refused his help, after she'd made it clear that she needed space to think. Is there a problem? David asked, noting her expression. No, no problem at all. Good. Report to the executive conference room at 4 on Wednesday. Marcus will brief you on his expectations. Walking back to her cart, Lily felt like the universe was playing some kind of cosmic joke. She needed money desperately, and the perfect opportunity had just dropped into her lap. but it meant working closely with the man she was trying to keep at arm's length. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. I heard about the dinner coordination position. I didn't ask David to offer it to you, but I'm glad he did. We need to talk. Lily stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Wednesday couldn't come fast enough, and it couldn't come slow enough, because she was about to find out if she was strong enough to work with Marcus Cole without falling completely apart, without letting him see just how desperately she needed his help, without giving in to the voice in her head that whispered it would be so easy to just say yes. Wednesday afternoon arrived like a storm cloud. Lily stood outside the executive conference room at exactly 4 o'clock, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd spent 2 days preparing for this meeting, researching catering options, making lists, practicing what she'd say. What she hadn't prepared for was seeing Marcus again after walking out of his apartment, after refusing his help, after leaving him standing in his kitchen with hurt in his eyes and words unsaid hanging between them. The memory of that morning still made her chest tight. The way he'd looked when she'd said she needed space. The way his face had fallen when she'd walked away from everything he was offering, not just his money, but his support, his partnership, his love. She knocked softly and entered. Marcus stood at the head of a polished conference table, papers spread in front of him like armor. When he looked up and saw her, his expression shifted from professional to something deeper, more personal, relief maybe, or hope. Lily, thank you for coming. Of course, I'm here to work. The formality in her voice made something flicker across his face. Hurt, definitely, and something that looked like he wanted to bridge the distance between them, but didn't know how. Please sit. Let me tell you about the dinner. For the next hour, they discussed details with careful professionalism. The guest list included 12 potential investors, the city's most influential business leaders, men and women who could make or break deals with a handshake. The menu needed to be elegant but not ostentatious, impressive without being showy. The service had to be flawless, invisible, perfect. This dinner could secure funding for our expansion into 3 new cities, Marcus explained, his voice strictly business. Everything has to be perfect. I understand. I won't let you down. I know you won't. His voice warmed, became personal despite their formal surroundings. You never do. Lily kept her eyes on her notepad, afraid that if she looked at him too long, she'd lose her resolve entirely. Is there anything else you need to discuss about the event? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When she finally glanced up, he was studying her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. How is your father? The question caught her off guard. She'd expected him to stick to business to keep things professional. She should have known Marcus wouldn't be able to compartmentalize that easily. He's fine. Lily. The way he said her name, gentle, knowing, full of concern that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with love, made her walls start to crumble. How is he really? Why does it matter? Because you matter. Because I can see you're worried sick, and it's killing me to watch you carry this alone. Lily's carefully constructed professional facade started to crack. The past few days had been torture, watching Tom try to hide his pain, researching assistance programs that led nowhere, lying awake at night doing impossible math. He's not great. The new medication, it's expensive. How expensive? She shouldn't tell him, shouldn't give him the opening he was clearly looking for, shouldn't hand him the ammunition he could use to break down her defenses entirely. But the words came out anyway, pulled by the genuine concern in his voice. $300 a month. Insurance won't cover it without jumping through hoops that could take months. Dr. Rodriguez says waiting could be dangerous. Marcus leaned forward, and she could see him shift from boss to the man who loved her. Let me help. No. Lily. I said no. Her voice was sharp, final, born of desperation and fear, and the knowledge that accepting his help would change everything between them forever. I won't be the woman who takes money from her boss. I won't give people reasons to think I'm sleeping my way to a better life. What people think doesn't matter. It matters to me. It matters to my father. It matters to my sense of who I am. Lily stood up, gathering her notes. I should go prepare for the dinner. This conversation isn't over. Yes, it is. But as she walked to the door, Marcus's voice stopped her. I love you. The words hit her like lightning. Lily froze, her hand on the doorknob. I love you, Marcus said again, quieter this time. And I know you love me too. Don't let pride destroy something real. Lily didn't turn around. Couldn't turn around. Because if she looked at him, if she saw the love in his eyes, she might crumble completely. Love isn't always enough, she whispered, and left before he could respond. The business dinner was flawless. Lily coordinated every detail with military precision. The flowers arrived on time, the wine was perfectly chilled, the servers moved like dancers through the elegant dining room. She watched from the sidelines as Marcus charmed potential investors, his smile confident and his handshake firm. This was his world, power and money and decisions that shaped entire cities. He belonged here, and she belonged in the background, making sure his world ran smoothly. The salmon is exquisite, one of the investors told Marcus. You certainly know how to treat your guests. I have an exceptional team, Marcus replied, his eyes finding Lily across the room. They understand that excellence is in the details. The dinner ended at 11. Lily supervised the cleanup, double-checking that every piece of silverware was accounted for, every glass properly stored. By midnight, the dining room looked like nothing had happened. She was finishing her final checklist when Marcus appeared beside her. Everyone's gone home. You should too. Just finishing up. Lily. His voice was gentle but firm. Look at me. She finally raised her eyes to his. He looked tired, older somehow than he had a few days ago. The dinner was perfect. You were perfect. I was just doing my job. No, you were being extraordinary, like always. Marcus stepped closer. I have something for you. He handed her an envelope. Lily recognized David Chen's handwriting on the front. What is this? Open it. Inside was a job offer, assistant guest relations manager, full-time position with benefits and a salary. That made her breath catch. Marcus, I can't. It's not from me, it's from David. He's been watching your work for months. Tonight convinced him you're ready for more responsibility. Lily stared at the numbers on the page. The salary would cover Tom's medication with money left over. It would mean financial security, benefits, a real future. Why now? Because you've earned it. Because you're wasted in housekeeping. Because David finally has the budget approval he's been waiting for. And it has nothing to do with you? Nothing. I swear to you on my mother's life, I didn't ask David to offer this position. I didn't even know about it until this afternoon. Lily studied Marcus's face, looking for any sign of deception. But his eyes were clear, honest, completely open. The salary would cover your father's medication, Marcus said quietly. You could take care of him without compromising your principles. And us? What about us? This doesn't change anything between us. I still can't be with my boss. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. What if I wasn't your boss? What do you mean? What if I took a step back from day-to-day operations? What if I focused on acquisitions and development while David ran the hotels? Marcus's voice was steady, sure. What if we found a way to be together without compromising your career or your integrity? Lily's heart started beating faster. You'd do that? For me? I'd do anything for you. The simplicity of his answer, the absolute certainty in his voice, made tears spring to her eyes. Marcus, I know you love me, Lily. I know you're scared, and I know you have every right to be. But don't let fear make this decision for you. What if it doesn't work? What if we're too different? What if we're not? What if we're exactly what each other needs? Lily looked at the job offer in her hands, then at Marcus's hopeful face. For weeks she'd been choosing fear over love, safety over possibility. Maybe it was time to choose differently. The job offer is real, she asked quietly. Completely real. David will give you the details tomorrow. And you'll really step back from operations? I'll do whatever it takes to be with you, without compromising who you are. Lily took a deep breath. Okay. Okay? I'll take the job, and I'll take a chance on us. Marcus's smile could have powered the city. He stepped closer, reaching up to cup her face with gentle hands. Are you sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. When he kissed her, it tasted like promise and possibility, and all the dreams she'd been afraid to believe in. And for the first time since this all started, Lily let herself hope that fairy tales might be real after all. 6 weeks later, Lily stood in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting the dress Marcus had bought her for the staff appreciation dinner. It was simple but elegant, navy blue with a classic cut that made her feel beautiful and confident. Tonight would be different from the first gala. Tonight, she wasn't sneaking moments of visibility between invisible hours. Tonight, she was Assistant Guest Relations Manager Lily Hart, and she had every right to be there. Her phone rang. Tom. Hey, Dad. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Nervous, excited, all of the above. Tom chuckled. Your mother would have been so proud of you. I hope so. I know so. You've worked hard for this, Lily. You deserve every bit of success. Tom's voice was stronger than it had been in months. The new medication was working perfectly, and his last checkup had been the best in years. Between Lily's new salary and a payment plan the hospital had offered, they were managing the costs without stress. Are you sure you're okay with Marcus coming to dinner Sunday? Lily asked. I'm looking forward to it. Any man who makes my daughter this happy is welcome at my table. Lily smiled. Tom had been skeptical about Marcus at first, but 2 Sunday dinners had won him over. Marcus had spent an hour listening to Tom's stories about working on classic cars, asking intelligent questions, and showing genuine interest. By dessert, they'd been debating the merits of different engine types like old friends. I love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. Now go show them what the Hart women are made of. Lily arrived at the hotel to find the ballroom transformed again. But this time, she walked through the main entrance like a guest, not the service door like staff. David Chen was waiting near the entrance with a warm smile. Lily, you look wonderful. Thank you. How can I help tonight? Actually, tonight you're off duty. This is about celebrating our staff, and that includes you. David's expression was kind. Enjoy yourself. You've earned it. The evening was everything the first gala had been but better. Lily moved through the crowd with confidence, talking to colleagues and guests alike. She belonged here now, not as someone playing dress-up, but as someone who'd earned her place through hard work and determination. She was talking to the mayor's wife about upcoming city events when familiar hands settled on her waist. Excuse me, Marcus said politely to the mayor's wife. May I steal Ms. Hart for a dance? Of course. You two make a lovely couple. Marcus led Lily to the dance floor, the same space where he'd first really seen her months ago. But everything was different now. This time, when he looked at her, she didn't have to look away. This time, when he held her, she didn't have to pretend it meant nothing. How does it feel? Marcus asked as they swayed to the music. Perfect. Scary, right. All at the same time? All at the same time. They danced in comfortable silence for a moment, surrounded by music and laughter and the warm glow of celebration. There's something I want to ask you, Marcus said. What? Not here. Later. Somewhere private. Lily's heart fluttered. Marcus, trust me? She looked into his eyes, the same eyes that had seen her when she was invisible, that had looked at her like she mattered when she was nobody special. Eyes that loved her, not because of what she could give him, but because of who she was. Always. After the dinner ended, Marcus led Lily up to the hotel's rooftop garden. It was a space most guests never saw, a quiet oasis with comfortable seating and a panoramic view of the entire city. Strings of lights twinkled overhead like captured stars, and soft music played from hidden speakers tucked among the plants. The garden was Marcus's secret sanctuary, a place he'd discovered during the hotel's construction. When the stress of business became overwhelming, he'd come here to remember why he'd fallen in love with the hospitality industry in the first place, the magic of creating spaces where people could celebrate life's most important moments. Tonight, he hoped to create the most important moment of his own life. It's beautiful up here, Lily said, walking to the edge of the terrace. The city sprawled below them, millions of lights twinkling like earthbound constellations. I come here when I need to think, when I need perspective. And what do you think about? Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. Lately? You. Always you. Lily's heart started beating faster when she saw the expression on his face, serious, nervous, hopeful, and something else. a tenderness that made her breath catch. Lily, these past few months have been the best of my life. You've changed everything for me, changed how I see the world, how I see myself. Marcus stepped closer, his hands trembling slightly. Before you, I was successful but empty. I had everything money could buy, but nothing that really mattered. Marcus, let me finish. His voice was gentle but determined. I know we haven't been together long. I know there are still complications we're working through, but I also know that I don't want to spend another day wondering what our future could look like. Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. The sight of it made Lily's knees weak. Oh my God. I love you, Lily Hart. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you see the best in everyone around you. I love that you make me want to be better, that you challenge me and support me and make me laugh. Marcus opened the box to reveal a simple, perfect diamond ring that caught the light like a captured star. I love that you chose to be with me not because of what I have, but because of who I am when I'm with you. Will you marry me? Lily stared at the ring, her mind racing. It was beautiful, elegant but not ostentatious, classic but not old-fashioned, exactly what she would have chosen if she'd dared to dream that big. The diamond wasn't enormous. Marcus had chosen thoughtfully, knowing she'd want something she could wear every day without feeling self-conscious. It was set in a simple platinum band that would age beautifully, that would still be elegant 50 years from now. I know it's fast, Marcus said quickly, interpreting her silence as hesitation. I know you might want to wait, and that's okay. I just needed you to know how I feel. Marcus, we can have a long engagement. We can wait until you're ready. I just want you to know that this is real for me, that when I look at the future, I can't imagine it without you in it. Marcus, I want to meet your extended family. I want to take you traveling. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep holding you every night. I want to build a life with you that... Marcus, Lily laughed, reaching up to touch his face. Stop talking for a second. He fell silent, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that took her breath away. Are you sure about this? She asked quietly. Really sure? Because there's no going back once you ask me to be your wife. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Even though I'll probably always worry about money, even when we have plenty, even though I'll want to keep working instead of being a society wife, even though I don't know which fork to use at fancy dinners and I'll probably never fit into your mother's social circles. Especially because of all those things. Marcus's voice was firm, certain. I don't want a society wife, Lily. I want you. I want your stubborn independence and your fierce loyalty to your family. I want your compassion for people others overlook and your strength in the face of impossible odds. Lily felt tears spring to her eyes. You really mean that? I really mean that. She looked at this man who had seen her when she was invisible, who had loved her when she couldn't love herself, who was offering her a future she'd never dared to dream possible. A man who understood that loving her meant loving all of her, the parts that were polished and the parts that were rough, the dreams she'd achieved and the fears she still carried. Then yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Marcus's smile was brilliant. He slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then kissed her so deeply that she forgot they were standing on a rooftop in the middle of the city. I love you, he murmured against her lips. I love you too. They held each other under the stars, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the garden. In the distance, the city hummed with life and possibility. And for the first time since she could remember, Lily felt like she belonged exactly where she was. What happens now? She asked. Now we plan a wedding. We figure out where to live, how to blend our lives together. Marcus pulled back to look at her. We take it one day at a time, and we build something beautiful together. It won't always be easy. The best things never are. Lily twisted the ring on her finger, still hardly believing it was real. Your mother's going to think I'm a gold digger. My mother's going to love you, just like I do. And my father? Already asked his permission 2 weeks ago. Lily's eyes went wide. You what? I went to see Tom. Asked him properly, the old-fashioned way. Marcus grinned. He said as long as I promised to make you happy, he'd be honored to call me his son. Tears sprang to Lily's eyes. You asked my dad? I wanted to do this right. All of it. That was when Lily knew, without any doubt, that she was making the right choice. Marcus understood what mattered to her: family, respect, doing things the proper way. He'd taken the time to honor the people she loved. "So what do you think?" Marcus asked. "Ready to take on the world together?" Lily looked out over the city lights, then back at the man who'd changed everything. A year ago, she'd been invisible, cleaning rooms and riding buses and dreaming small dreams. Tonight, she was engaged to a man who loved her completely, with a career she was passionate about and a future full of possibilities. "I'm ready," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. They danced slowly in the garden, no music except the rhythm of their hearts beating together. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, new dreams to chase. But tonight was perfect. Tonight was theirs. And for Lily Hart, soon to be Lily Cole, that was more than enough. It was everything. 1 year later, the ballroom had been transformed once again, but this time it was for Lily and Marcus's wedding reception. White roses and soft lighting created an atmosphere of elegant romance, and the joy in the room was almost tangible. Lily sat at the head table in her wedding dress, simple, elegant, perfect, watching their guests dance and laugh and celebrate. Tom was spinning Evelyn Cole around the dance floor, both of them laughing like teenagers. Tessa was charming the mayor with stories from the front desk. Even Janelle Brooks had approached Lily earlier with genuine congratulations and an admission that she'd been wrong to doubt their relationship. "Penny for your thoughts, Mrs. Cole," Marcus said, sliding into the chair beside her. Mrs. Cole, Lily still got butterflies every time she heard it. Just thinking about how much has changed. Good changes. The best changes. Marcus took her hand, spinning her wedding ring with gentle fingers. They'd kept their ceremony small and intimate, family and close friends in the hotel's chapel, with a reception that felt more like a joyful dinner party than a formal event. "Any regrets?" Marcus asked. Lily looked around the room at all the people they loved, all the faces smiling and celebrating their happiness. She thought about her new position as guest relations manager, about the small house they'd bought together, big enough for them and Tom when he visited, modest enough that she still felt like herself. She thought about the life they were building together, day by day, choice by choice. "Not one," she said firmly. "Good, because I have a surprise for you." "Another one? You've already given me enough surprises for 10 lifetimes." Marcus laughed. "This one's different, special." He stood and clinked his champagne glass with a fork, calling for attention. The room gradually quieted, all eyes turning to them. "Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate with Lily and me. Your love and support means the world to us." A murmur of agreement went around the room. "Most of you know our story, how we met right here in this hotel, how long it took me to get smart enough to ask her out, how she made me work for it." Laughter rippled through the crowd. But what you might not know is that Lily has inspired something new. Marcus turned to smile at his wife. Starting next month, the Cole Hamilton hotel chain will be launching a scholarship program for hospitality workers who want to advance their careers. We're calling it the Lily Hart Foundation. Gasps and applause filled the room. Lily's hands flew to her mouth in shock. Every year, we'll provide full scholarships for employees who want to pursue education or training in hotel management, guest relations, or business administration, because everyone deserves the chance to reach their potential, regardless of where they start. Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Marcus, I can't believe you. You changed my life, Lily. You taught me to see people I'd been overlooking, to value the work that really makes a difference. This foundation is my way of making sure others get the same opportunities you earned." The room erupted in applause. Tom was beaming with pride. Evelyn dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Tessa whooped loudly from across the room. Marcus leaned down to whisper in Lily's ear. "Think anyone else deserves the chance to go from invisible to extraordinary?" Lily stood and kissed her husband, not caring that everyone was watching, not caring about anything except the man who had seen her when no one else did, who had loved her completely and helped her love herself. "I think," she said against his lips, "that everyone deserves to be seen." "Then let's make sure they are." They danced their last dance as the evening wound down, surrounded by love and laughter and the promise of all the tomorrows stretching ahead of them. And as Lily looked around the ballroom one final time, the same space where she'd once been invisible, where she'd first been truly seen, she smiled. Some fairy tales, it turned out, were worth waiting for. Some princes were worth taking a chance on, and sometimes being brave enough to love was the only magic you needed.